Hello everyone. Welcome to today's live. This is a great topic we've got going on today. This is how to have a conscious relationship with not just yourself, but with other people too. So I have a special guest coming on here today. I'm bringing on spiritual teacher Artem from True Freedom Teachings here on Instagram. So let me know if you're watching. Say hello, say hi, and if you have questions as we go along this live, please feel free to put them in the comments here. We're going to see if we can get to as many as possible today. So let me invite Artem on here. We have to start over, but let's give him a minute to join us. Oh, and yeah, say hi. I see a lot of you saying hi already here.
Hi.
Hi, Artem.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear
Wonderful.
me?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Hi.
Well,
hi, Lindsay.
How
Good
are
to see
you?
Good. Good.
Good. Thank you so much for joining me here. If you're okay with this, Artem, I want to just start out quickly by letting everyone know our background, like how I came to know you. Does that work?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So I found Artem a few years ago. I want to say back in 2018, 2019, when I was going through such a hard time. I was coming out of divorce. I was also coming out of an abusive relationship. And in the midst of that, kind of going through a spiritual crisis because my ex was an abusive spiritual teacher. And so I was just so mixed up with trying to understand like what was real awakening, because I had gone through a spiritual awakening experience a few years prior, and I thought I knew everything. And then I met this new spiritual teacher. He got me very mixed up. So Artem was one of the very few people who actually could understand my experience, what I was going through a couple years after spiritual awakening, self-realization, whereas I just could not find anyone who could relate to me. It was a really hard time for me, and Artem was like a light that helped me to get back to myself and to feel a sense of reality again after going through all of that spiritual abuse that I had experienced. So I'm so glad that you were open to doing this, Artem, and to talk to us today about conscious relationship, because that's a big topic these days. We have a lot of questions about that. So could you tell me just a little bit of the background, like how, just for our audience here, how you came to be doing what you're doing today, teaching?
Well, quite abruptly, so, and quite unexpectedly for me. So I got enlightened at 40, kind of like Gautama, after a very, very difficult period of my life. I had a very difficult depression with lots of suicidal ideation. Some people would call it the dark night of the soul. So there was nowhere left to go, either kill myself or go inwards. And in 2015, I think it was, so right now I'm 46. So that was about 6 years ago. And quite unexpectedly, I got enlightened. And what followed was a very long period of integration, which is usually how it goes. So it was extraordinarily painful. I cried almost every day for many years. There was lots of emotions, the extraordinary amount of fear, anger, all sorts of stuff. And so I meditated, of course. I used psychedelics as well. And after about 2 to 3 years, it has stabilized to an extent that my mind was more or less equanimous all the time. So, and I started teaching. So I created my website. I created my forum. I posted a lot of questions on Quora. I think this is how you found me. Maybe
Yep.
It was probably through Quora, right? So my website.
Yep.
Yes. So my website, I think I launched it like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. It's basically just a collection of links to my Quora answers. So short. Sometime afterwards, I started doing YouTube videos. My audience has been growing, but very, very slowly. So now I have a Discord forum, a YouTube channel, I still post on Quora from time to time, but I also post on Facebook, and it's been growing slowly. I've been doing retreats with people, so and like it was pretty obvious to me that it's the most important thing that I could ever be doing. So I think I'll be doing it until I die.
I hope so. I hope so, because I call you like a gem out there, because you're one of the very few people that speaks to, hey, you're welcome, to the experience after awakening. There's so many
Yes.
teachers talk about getting to the awakening, but then it's like you're on your own out there, and it's so confusing. So we
Yes.
need you. Yeah.
And actually, what happens after awakening? Yes, very few people talk about it in detail. Adyashanti talks about it. Osho talked about it a lot. But actually, what happens after the awakening is the most important part. Actually, believe it or not, because finding consciousness awareness, disidentifying with the ego—that's all very nice. But the real job of awareness, so to say, is the very deep transformation of a human being, and the big difference between sort of an awakened state, where an awareness is present, and what I would call an enlightened state, is the amount of this transformation that a person has undergone. So awareness, given enough time and practice, uncovers our deep wounds, uncovers our insecurities, uncovers our discontent, and it's not pleasant. Oftentimes, it's not pleasant at all, as you know from your own experience, right? But
Yeah.
but this is but this is the how transformation happens. This is how authentic transformations happens, and through uncovering these things, it actually leads to lasting and permanent behavior, attitude, and worldview changes.
Yes. And so, yes, speaking of the transformation process, relationships is, for me, it's honestly been the hardest part of this process.
Yes, it is. Usually it's yes.
Navigating relationships. So if you're ready, I'd love to throw some questions at you, and invite anyone who's here watching to put your questions here in the comments, and we'll see how many we can get to today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would even say that relationships is almost the only thing that is important on the spiritual path, because so first of all, the ego exists in relationships. The conditioning is the result of relationships. The mistakes we make due to our conditioning manifest in relationships, and the whole of the spiritual journey could be said to be an extraordinary deep reevaluation of your relationship with yourself.
Yes.
Which produces a similarly deep reevaluation of your relationships with other people. So it's an extraordinarily important topic. That's also one of the reasons why on the spiritual path, when we become very bare, when we become very sensitive, the people who know us most, our parents, our loved ones, our partners, the people who we engage with most, are also usually the most challenging people, and they can hurt us the most, and they most difficult to deal with. Oftentimes, that's usually what happens.
Yes. Oh, I can absolutely speak to that. And so I have a lot of questions about, relationship dynamics, but I want to start with your definition of what you view a conscious relationship, an awakened relationship. What is it to you? How do you see it?
Good question. Okay. So a conscious relationship is not a term that I use personally a lot, but I hear it a lot. And so the way that I would define a conscious relationship, and we're talking about romantic relationship, I think, in this context. So is a relationship where both people strive to use their relationship also additionally as a way to get to know yourself better, to heal themselves, and to help another person get to know them better and heal themselves. So basically, a conscious relationship would be healing together, awakening together. And the together is a very big part, right? So in the spiritual journey, the focus should be on yourself, not on the other. But help from another can be extraordinarily important. So not, not only to help see something deeper, which can be difficult, but also support. Because spiritual awakening is a difficult process, and emotional support, physical support, giving space, providing reassurance. So basically, conscious relationship is growing in consciousness together.
I agree. Yeah, that's how I see it too. Two people who are on the same path together, and the purpose is for their awakening, but also to support one another. Yes. Absolutely. And I would say that has always been my goal. I always wanted that type of relationship. And I know many of my clients want that. My followers are looking for that. And I'm curious I think I kind of know what you're going to say, but I'm curious what you would share about the messages that are out there when it comes to awakening, and how it's a very solitary process, and how you have to release attachment to all kinds of things, including people, including relationships. How do you see that process, the awakening process, in relation to relationships, if you know what I mean? Do we have to get away from all of our relationships, or can we do awakening with someone in a romantic relationship with a partner?
Good question. It is and it isn't. It is because all the insights are within you. So all the insights are of your own making. Nobody, strictly speaking, can help you make an insight. I mean, someone can point you to an insight, but an insight, because it's internal, it is always something that you make yourself. So oftentimes the deepest insights arrive in solitude. And meditation also is a solitary activity. So from this perspective, it is. It isn't for a couple of reasons. Well, first of all, as I mentioned before, our ego, our conditioning, is a product of relationships. Is a product of dysfunctional relationships. Like if there were no other person, if there were no other people on this planet, you would be born enlightened, and you would continue to be enlightened until you die, right? So we get conditioned, we get our conditioning, which then manifests in suffering when we're very, very young. So we are a product of relationships, and ego exists in relationships. So relationships can be a tremendous catalyst on the path. And then also ultimately, right, even as you have gone through this solitary journey of enlightenment, the destination is not being a recluse, right? Even if you look at let's say, the 10 Bulls of Zen, or other spiritual traditions, they often say that there's a mountain, there's a peak of enlightenment from which you then come back to people. Yeah. Right. The 10th picture in the 10 Bulls of Zen, the last picture is in the marketplace. I mingle with my people again. You see, so both are needed. There could be a period of deep solitary practice. But oftentimes, like people, even as people get a certain state of equanimity and a certain state of well-being and happiness, unconditional, uncaused happiness and well-being, which is a result of the spiritual enlightenment, the spiritual work, awakening, and they feel comfortable. Oftentimes, when they go back to people or go back to relationships and continue living their lives, right? And we cannot live our lives in complete solitude. That's not possible. We wouldn't even be able to eat,
right.
If it's not for other people. And so after such period, as they go back, to the world, they go back to engaging with people, things still hurt, and there is
Yep.
still some unresolved issues that other people can be very efficiently help uncover. And the interesting thing is that, like, even if they hurt you due to their own conditioning, even if they hurt you due to their own suffering, or their own blindness or their own ignorance, like we can use many terms, less pejorative or more pejorative, to describe it, but the person who is hurting is still you, and that means that there is still some unresolved things, because a very happy, a very enlightened, a very equanimous mind unburdened by the past doesn't hurt, like, for example, in a simple conversation, doesn't get disturbed too much. And so it is solitary, but it's not at the same time. It's like we're all alone. Enlightenment can also be described as aloneness, but we're not. So your life is yours, and it completely belongs to you, but you live in the crowd of other people. So both are true. And even though the happiness of enlightenment is absolute and is extraordinary and cannot be compared to any happiness that can be found in the dream state, living together with a person whom you truly love, who truly gives you joy, whom you truly enjoy in deep and loving partnership, can add to this joy. And it does,
Yeah.
Loving another is a tremendous source of happiness. So it's both. It's both. The spirituality is such a paradoxical thing.
Yes.
Almost every answer isn't yes and no. It's both.
Yes. Thank you for that answer. And I mean, I can relate to that too, because for me it was, I actually have done a majority of my awakening in relationships, not all, but a majority. And I was still able to reach some pretty deep levels of enlightenment, realization, whatever you want to call it. But then the tendency I noticed in myself is, once that happens, once you get to that really blissful place, it is to kind of like want to stay isolated and keep that going, because you're right. If you go out there into the world and start talking to people, it hurts. And sometimes I think even more so, honestly, than before awakening, because it's like your heart is just wide open.
Your heart
and it
is just bare. Yes. It's wide open. Yes, you become vulnerable. Your heart becomes bare. Yes. And this tendency, by the way, is an illusion. It's just like you can do that. You can stay with solitude for some time, to just enjoy yourself, to have some rest. But the interesting thing also in the awakened state is everything that hurts is also a blessing in disguise. Everything that hurts is something that is asking for your attention. It is something that is asking for awareness. It is something unresolved. So kind of if you spend some time in solitude and you feel wonderful and you feel blissful once you had your rest, it will actually advisable to go out and live again, because also enlightenment is not a withdrawal from life. It's a very profound acceptance of life in all its manifestations, including relationships.
Yes, it reminds me of that saying, something like, if you think you're enlightened, like, go home to your family or something.
Yep.
That's just so true.
Ram Dass said that. I mean, he said, if you think you're enlightened, spend a week with your parents.
Yes. That's it.
Yes, that's what he said.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And so I personally have found a lot of healing in relationship, but also I've had a lot of pain come in relationship. So I think it'd be really helpful for me, but also for anyone watching, to talk about, you said that any person can bring up pain within you. So do you see relationships basically as, I know you mentioned this before, but just to clarify, so relationships are really tools for your awakening? Is that how you see it?
I wouldn't put it as strongly, right? So I would say that that would be what separates conscious relationships. You ask me, how would you view conscious relationship? Well, the word conscious would mean that you also see it as a tool, and you also use it as a tool, right? But relationships themselves, of course, cannot be said to be just a spiritual tool. I mean, we cannot reduce another person to just be a tool for your spiritual development, right? So relationships, most of all, is love. And love is enjoyment and appreciation of another person, and there's nothing more beautiful than love. So most of all, relationships are about sharing your authentic desire for well-being of another of yourself and of another person together, right? So a good relationship is when I want me to be well, and I also want equally. I want you to be well, and ideally you would look at me in the same way. And so relationships are the source of joy in themselves. But relationship can be viewed as a tool and should be viewed as a tool also, because they are also one of the most difficult things. So I don't know if I answered your question. By the time that
you did.
By now I actually forgot what you asked. What did you ask? I got a little carried away. What was your question?
I answered the question.
Okay.
That was the question. Can it be used as a tool? Because
yeah, it can.
To further your awakening, to help you heal. Not that we should view people as just like objects here, but
that's what it really does. Yeah. It's just through the its quality of being intensive, so everyone that you have a deep relationship with, or everyone that you love, or everyone that loves you, they have this ability to bring up stuff in a more kind of intense way. So yes, from this perspective, absolutely, yes.
Oh yeah, thank you. And that actually brings me into my next question, because a lot of my followers, a lot of my clients are transitioning from painful, we could say toxic, abusive relationships, and they are looking for a healthy, conscious relationship. And so I can say this for myself too, it gets very confusing when you're on the spiritual path and you know that people triggering your pain is helpful for you, right? So how do you know, and I'm curious what you would say about this, how do you know the difference between a relationship that is helping you to further awaken versus a relationship that is harming you and you actually need to move away from that, if that makes sense?
Very, very good question. Yes, it does. So this can be very difficult to discern. Yes. So strictly speaking, on the spiritual path, every relationship can help you. Even an abusive relationship can help you. Like, for example, your abusive relationship was also of a tremendous help to you. And the turning point, the most important turning point in this relationship, when you finally admitted to yourself that no, that's not what you want.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it was an insight, right? So every pain, if you're conscious, then every behavior of another person that brings you emotional pain, and every pain is looking for your attention. Every pain needs your awareness. Like, awareness goes where it hurts. So from this perspective, every relationship can be good, but if you are aware, if you're awake, if you're conscious, then and you're in an abusive relationship, of course it's going to be tremendously painful. And the more you, the less resistant you are to the pain of abuse. And I'm not saying, but when I say the less resistant you are to the pain, I don't mean you should invite abuse or things like that. I'm strictly talking about internal experience, right? So the more we explore the external experience of our emotions, the more we'll lose resistance to feeling them, right? So the more we are comfortable with feeling our emotions, actually the better decisions we make. So we are habitually conditioned to deny our emotions, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, a very common dynamic in an abusive relationship is denial and minimization. So, for example, like someone's behavior hurts you deeply, but you're in denial of it, or you don't want to think about it, you don't want to feel it, right? And you don't want to admit that this wasn't fair to you, that this was abusive. So actually, the closer we situated towards our emotional response and the less resistance we are, the clearer we start seeing things. And with this clarity, and of course, it's a long process. It's not like boom, there's clarity. So the clarity is a result of our growing self-acceptance. So the more you are accepting of how you feel at every given moment, the clearer you see the situation. And with this clarity, what pops up, of course, also slowly, is something that I would call intuition, right? And intuition is a very interesting thing. Intuition is unconscious knowledge. So intuition doesn't come with words usually, and it has a very interesting quality. It does not relate on emotion. It does not depend on emotions. So emotions are something that come. The emotion comes, emotion goes. But intuition is always the same.
Yeah.
So, like for example, let me give you an example. Like if you intuit very deeply that this person is a good person for you, it's kind of just like something that you know. You don't think about it, you don't analyze it, but it's just something that you know, right? You might have a fight, and a very serious fight, a strong fight, and during this fight or after this fight, you might even have thoughts, oh, we should break up, or I should leave him, or things like that. But after the emotional turmoil is over, nothing's changed. With regards to this intuition, it still feels like this person is right for you.
Yeah.
Right? And the opposite is also true. So we could be with a person who you know is bad for you, but you may have a wonderful birthday or a party and stuff, or sex, and have like 2 days which would be wonderful days, and you would be very emotionally very happy, but after like 3-4 days, even if you don't fight anymore, this thing that is telling you that something is wrong with this relationship is still there.
Yeah.
Right. So emotions come and go, but the intuition is knowledge that is coming seemingly from nowhere. It's actually coming deep from your unconscious. It's your knowledge. If you're doing if you're making a mistake, or if you're doing something right with your life for you. So I would say, listen to this. Listen to this never-ending knowledge that is still there. Like, is this the right relationship, or is this wrong relationship? Then there's another thing. Sometimes I'd say that the direction of the spiritual practice is the direction of discomfort, right? So if you want to, it doesn't mean that you like need to punish yourself or be a masochist, but in meditation, in life, if you're aware, if you find consciousness starts to effortlessly explore the rejected, uncomfortable parts of your experience. Usually people have no problem whatsoever experiencing bliss. but no, not at all. Usually, I mean, there could be so much bliss that it can be uncomfortable because it's too much and too unfamiliar. Right. But usually, no problem with bliss. But
we love that.
Yeah, we all love that. But other things like anger, hurt feelings, humiliation, tears, that's what we don't like. interestingly, the negative and positive experience are very deeply interconnected. So it's like you could say that bliss. You could even say that bliss is a consequence of working through difficulty. Yeah. So I could say that the direction of awareness is exploring the rejected, unfamiliar parts of your experience and exploring the difficulty as well. And so someone could misinterpret it and say, well, okay, so if I'm in an abusive relationship and every time, they hurt me, then, and this, by the way, happens oftentimes with spiritually abusive relationship, when another person thinks they're enlightened and in reality they still have a lot of ego, a lot of abuse, and so they abuse a weaker mind, and this weaker mind kind of reads somewhere some ideas that all pain is good, and so I have to stay in this abusive relationship and experience pain. But here's the thing: you ask yourself honestly, what is more difficult for you, to stay in this relationship or to leave?
Yeah.
And most likely, if you're in an abusive relationship, you are scared of leaving way more than you're scared of staying. That you're scared of the pain that you're experiencing in staying.
100%.
That's exactly why you're in an abusive relationship. That's exactly why, because the other person, again, it could be conscious, it could be unconscious. They could be a narcissistic, manipulative person that does it all consciously, but most of the time they're not very conscious about it. They just behave like their own programming, but on the unconscious level, the reason that they abuse you is exactly because they know that you're not going to leave.
Yes.
You see?
And I could
so
say, go ahead.
What's that?
Yes. One of the things that kept me there was the thought of, well, I have to be unconditionally loving, because that was the spiritual thing that I was on. Yeah.
Yes. You cannot have to be unconditionally loving. Yeah. You see, if you either unconditionally loving or you're not, right? And if you say, I have to be unconditionally loving, then guess what? You're not unconditionally loving. To who?
Right.
To yourself.
Well, I was going to say, I forgot.
Because you're saying to yourself, I have to. You have to. Even though I don't want to, but you say you have to. Yeah. Is it love to yourself? No. Not at all. And so what I wanted to say with regards to kind of leaving versus not leaving is that even if we take this position that discomfort is good, pain is good, it opens you up, it makes you grow as a person, right? Then if you're staying in this abusive relationship and telling yourself that you have to be loving and stuff, but you know that leaving is much scarier for you because you're familiar with this abusive relationship and you're very much scared to be alone, right? Then you're kind of tricking yourself, actually maybe that's exactly what you need to do.
Right.
So the question is, what is the right thing for me to do? And why am I scared to do it, right? If you feel that the right thing, not because you read that you need to be unconditionally loving, not because you follow some spiritual dogma, but what does your heart telling you? And are you afraid to do what your heart is telling you the right thing to do for you?
Yes. That really was my experience. And thank you for the eloquent response here. Beautiful. Because the deeper that I healed, the deeper I awakened, that intuition, like what you're calling the heart, that intuition just spoke louder and louder in my relationships. And I didn't want to leave any of my relationships. I wanted to stay and hang on, but I couldn't just ignore the truth of what I was feeling, which was I didn't really like this, but I had been in so much denial, tremendous amounts of denial that I had to go through. And I got divorced, then got into that abusive relationship, but it was the same thing. It was just, it brought up deeper levels of denial. And I actually thought that this awakening process would help me to be better able to stay in difficult, really painful relationships, but it made it harder. Now I can tolerate people much better, but for me to be in a romantic way every day, no, it actually makes me realize I don't like this. It's very, very clear. This is not the dynamic I like. it actually surprised me. I was actually shocked because I just wanted, like, my kind of mission was like, I want to be able to just be at peace with everyone. And, you know, I'm moving towards that. But what that also means is I don't want to stay in a relationship where it doesn't feel loving, where I don't feel like this person really cares about me. So it's the paradox again. It's the both things at
Well,
once.
being at peace with everyone doesn't mean that allowing everyone to walk all over you.
Yes. Yes.
That's
That is
not
what I
the
was
same
shocked about.
thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
It's like imagine that, like like imagine that you have a small child, right? And of course, and you're a mature adult individual. Uh, so a child cannot like trigger you and make you angry, like stuff like let's say you're mature, right? So a lot of people are not. So even small children can make them angry. But imagine that you're not enlightened, not anything like that. But just a mature adult individual who cannot get, who does not themselves get emotional tantrums from some childish behavior from the kids, right? So you're not affected by them, right? So does that mean now that you will allow the child to do absolutely anything, you know, tear your work, destroy your laptop, kick you, hit you?
Yeah.
Like, no, of course not. You will prevent all of that without getting hysterical, right? Because it's the right thing to do for you, and it's also the right thing to do for the child, because believe it or not, well, that's kind of obvious, but even for the person who is abusive, it is not good for them to let them do that to you, because first of all, they will never learn the lesson, and then second of all, even from the spiritual perspective, the more they abuse you in the way that you don't deserve, right? Well, no one deserves abuse, but the more they kind of unload their anger on you, misdirect their anger on you, the more guilt they will experience later when they actually realize that it was their anger, you know. So it's the same way of, you know, don't let people kill each other because afterwards there's going to be tremendous amount of guilt and tears, even if you think that in the moment this is the right thing to do. So it's the same thing, right? It's if you have an abusive relationship and you're a victim and someone is a perpetrator, then of course the responsibility is on you to realize that no one enters abusive relationship by accident, and no one stays there by accident. So so there's something in you that invited this into your life for sure, and there's a part of responsibility, but once you realize that, it's not only good for you to leave or to set boundaries or to basically stop the abuse, but it's also good for them, for the abuser. It's the right thing to do for both of us, both of you.
And that was what you really helped me to see back then, because I had this image of awakening, enlightenment as literally like people are just going to walk all over me and I won't care. That's what I thought. And so I was actually shocked that this path actually meant, no, I have good boundaries. I didn't think it was like that. And I probably am not alone in that experience. I think kind of like the popular image of enlightened people is you're just okay with anything and nothing bothers you. And it's like that's both true, but also, as you described, you don't let someone just walk all over you. It's not like that. So that was very surprising to me. And you helped me with that a tremendous amount.
Even if your mind is completely equanimous, right? There's first of all, there's some physical consequences, right? I don't know, if you break something, you need to replace it, and things like that. And then it's still not good for them.
Yeah. And that's what I think gets lost sometimes. That's where I was getting lost in the spiritual messages that I was listening to back then, which is to be unconditionally loving, and that means, like I said, to stay, to tolerate.
there's this tendency of the ego to when read the spiritual literature to actually misinterpret, right? And you sort of gave yourself up when you said I should, right?
Yeah.
So if there's like if you read the spiritual literature and there's a it's, and there's a takeaway which starts with I should,
Yeah.
right, then you probably misinterpreted something, right? Because
Yeah.
because you shouldn't do anything. It's about freedom. It's about love. So if there's I should, then this is also that you're rejecting yourself something, and you cannot love other people more than you love yourself. So if you view yourself in the way that, well, I should, right, then you also got to shoot others, maybe
Yes.
in different ways, but you will, right? So it's important to get rid of all the shoulds.
Yes. No, yes, because it's like when I was in that abusive relationship, I actually like forgot a lot of the things that I already knew, which would like the path is about freedom and doing
And
what you
love.
want. Like that's
Yes,
the whole
that's
thing. That's
right.
the love.
That's right. That's right. And doing, yes, yes,
I got
yes.
mixed
And
up for a while, but yeah, you straightened me back out. Yeah.
living your life the way that you want to live your life, not even the way the spiritual text tells you to live your life. It's always a misinterpretation.
Yes. And so yeah, thank you for this amazing explanation. Can I give you a couple more questions here?
Of course.
And yeah, again, anyone who's watching, please leave your questions in. We will scroll through at the end and answer what we can. But so how would you say I was gonna say should. I don't want to say should.
It's okay. Yeah,
If
I
you
will
have
understand. It's
well,
not about the language. It's not the
if
semantics.
if you have two people who are trying to have a conscious awakened relationship, they're both on the same path, it can get very challenging. It can get very painful. Do you have any like best practices, perspectives to have that can be helpful? And I need this too, so I'm listening to your answer.
Okay. Okay. I will I will try to give some advice based on what I learned. So it can be very painful. Yes, absolutely. So there are a few things that you can do. First of all, everyone's pain is their own responsibility. So your pain is your responsibility. Your partner's pain is their responsibility. It does not mean that it gives you green light to abuse them, right? So it does not mean that you should be a dick and completely insensitive to their own pain, because again, right? So how easy it is to misinterpret spiritual teaching, like Artem said, your pain is your responsibility. Yes. I'm gonna talk to you however I want, right? Because it's not my responsibility. That leads to abusive behavior. So being callous and causing another person pain also actually comes from internal pain. So this behavior needs to be addressed. Now, of course, everyone makes mistakes. No change happens instantly, so it requires a lot of patience, right? Both with you and with another person. Our unconscious programming, our patterns, they don't dissolve in an instant. It usually takes many years. So we notice it again and again. We notice that we have some aggressive or judgmental behavior that is coming from our own discomfort, that is coming from a pain. Sometimes we notice ourselves, sometimes our partner helps us notice. We look at it, we can make the same mistake again. Maybe the amount of pain as it felt through it maybe lowers with time, but it's still there. So usually the way it goes is that if there's some dysfunctional behavior, first it rises up to the level of consciousness. So first we need to become conscious of it, because we cannot let go of anything that we're still in denial of, right? But even once we're conscious of it, it takes some time for it to go away. so usually the way it goes is it just the same behavior starts appear rarer and rarer and rarer, but it still continues to appear. So we need a lot of patience for both people. That's one thing. Now, with regards to the first thing that I said, that the pain is your responsibility, uh, uh, meditation and other spiritual practice. So if you're in pain, if you're angry or hurt and stuff like that, it is still your responsibility to work through your feelings. And so meditation can be very, very helpful. And in this context, it's important to learn to give each other space. So a very important part of abusive relationships, of conscious relationships, is that when one partner says, I need to meditate, or I need to be alone now because I need to process something, another person does not insist that something gets resolved right away. I mean, this insistence, this impatience that something gets resolved right away is actually also their difficulty, their discomfort, and they should stay with that. So space is important. Now, with regards to communication, a very good tool for communication is nonviolent communication. By Marshall Rosenberg, I think. So it's a wonderful tool. It's almost like nonviolent communication is almost enlightenment light, basically. So if you practice it, yes, if you practice it, it's going to be a very good thing for spiritual path for a simple reason, that the kind of habitual conditioned communication is to tell another person what you did wrong, what they did wrong.
Yeah.
So nonviolent communication turns this around, and it makes it about what you feel, and why you want the other person to change their behavior, without accusing them. So from accusatory, it becomes exploratory. So you have to, if you practice nonviolent communication, you have to stop. You have to identify what you feel. You have to kind of bring together as your emotional response, which is difficult, as a response to another person's behavior. You have to identify it. So you already have to look inside. That's its main value. So you already have to look inside, and then you have to phrase your request in a non-judgmental way, making it about you. Right. So I want you to change your behavior because I feel this, and this when you do it, and I would like not to do it. So I'm asking you. I'm not like telling you you're a bad person, and I'm demanding you to change.
Right.
So that's how we usually communicate, right? So he called it jackal ears, and jackals and giraffes. So we could use that. It's a great tool, and talking to each other. Like spiritual path is as much about truth and honesty as it is about anything else. So honest conversations about what you feel, what you want, and your internal state, they can also be quite uncomfortable for both people, because usually, in relationships, people have very limited amount of intimacy, but the spiritual path is all about intimacy. Actually, basically, you could even define enlightenment as the state of absolute intimacy with yourself, when you no longer hide anything from yourself about anything. You could define it this way, right? And that's why you also become independent of people and not affected by them anymore, because you're not lying about anything. But the interesting thing is that it's one thing to admit something to yourself, which is very important, right? But to admit something to another person oftentimes is even deeper, oftentimes is even more profound, because now you can't hide anywhere, right? So like admitting it to yourself is a prerequisite to admitting it to another person, right? So if you admit something to another person, then by definition you're also admitting it to yourself. It's deeper, right? So honest, sincere conversations about what's going on in you, what's going on in another person, in a non-judgmental, non-aggressive way, and processing your emotions, processing emotional responses, because sometimes as your partner starts talking very honestly about what they feel, you might get hurt.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That happens. That also happens all the time.
I know what that's
right?
like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So uh, uh, honest communication, uh, non-attacking communication, spiritual practice, meditation, giving each other space, uh, respecting each other. Uh, I think those are the most important thing. I mean, my wife and I talked for hours about everything.
Yeah. It's, the way you're talking about it, it's like both very difficult to do emotionally, but it's actually quite simple, really. It's just, being kind to each other, taking
Yeah.
responsibility of your emotions, being honest. Like, it's both, I think, both the hardest and the most simple thing to
It's
do.
like with all this spirituality
Yeah.
is actually the easiest thing in the world. I mean, the path is extraordinarily easy. I mean, I could describe the spiritual path as just pay attention to how you feel,
Right.
and never reject anything that you feel. And that's all the spiritual path, pretty much, right? But it's hard. It's difficult because we have very deep avoidance of pleasant emotions, and usually it takes years and years of practice to get to the state of equanimity. So it's like with all spirituality, simple but not easy, right? So the method is very simple, but emotionally it can get difficult. But it's also very liberating, and you are growing together in intimacy. You see, so growing in intimacy with another person is actually equivalent to growing in intimacy with yourself. That's exactly why it's difficult,
Yeah.
because you see, it's like, even if another person is telling you something that is difficult for you to hear, uh, like for example, something that makes you jealous, right? Uh, uh, the uh, it's not like uh, uh, you are a categorically different individual. Actually, I mean, you can also find other men attractive, I'm pretty sure, for example. You see,
Yes.
so it's like we're always seeing mirrors of each other. I mean, of ourselves. So almost every we are so fundamentally uh, alike, men and
Yeah.
women, like people, we're so fundamentally alike, but we're in such a deep denial of it. I mean, ego also likes to present that, well, I am better than all the other people. You see,
Uh-huh.
you're absolutely the same.
Yeah.
so, so, so,
That's
so,
the
so, so
painful
that's,
part. We don't want to see that. No.
yes, yes. So that's why it could be difficult. You see, if you find emotionally something that another person is experiencing, if you find it very difficult emotionally, then rest assured you're also entirely capable of it. Like, for example, if you find it difficult when someone is angry at you, if you find it very, very painful and very, very difficult, guess what? It means that, like, your habitual, probably conditioned response to anger from early childhood is withdrawal and submission.
Yep.
But you are an adult person now, which means that you have been withdrawing and submitting, not to someone who is like 10 times your size, which would be your parents, uh, but to people that you had no need to do that. And there is just due to how you've been living your life in a sort of a submissive pose, there is a lot of rage in you about it now. and,
Oh,
and so usually and so usually people that go through the spiritual process, like for example, if they were very much afraid of anger, they were fearful. Once they work through the fear part of it, under the fear there's rage now, there's anger about it, you see. So it's like we are very, very much the same.
yeah.
If you really have uncovered, seen, and integrated the part about yourself that the other person is currently struggling with, then it's not a struggle for you to see. But if it is a struggle for you to see, then they are connected to you in some way, maybe not as like exactly direct way, because like the example that I gave, the last example that I gave is not exactly direct, but they're still connected.
Oh yeah, you're speaking to my experience, because that was, my ego did not like that anger, wanted to withdraw, was submissive, but then going through this experience, man,
have you discovered your anger?
Oh yes, yes.
Of course. Yeah.
And the hatred, I went through a lot of hatred too.
Bitterness, there was a lot of bitterness about it. Yes, because you're living against yourself, so there will be a lot of bitterness and anger towards people who you perceive as your jailers.
Yes, and I'm still working through some of that. There's still some of that there. But, I was like, oh no, I'm not an angry person. Oh well, yes, I have plenty of anger. I didn't feel it. I didn't let myself experience it.
Yes, and in a similar way, by the way, every victim is also a predator. In a similar way, if you're like a professional victim, if your position in a relationship is a position of victimhood, then you will also use it to manipulate another person. And deep down also, there would be a lot of superiority and condescension, because you think that you're a much better person than this person who abuses you.
Yes. Uncomfortable truths we don't want to see. Yes. Yes. But it is true. No, you're absolutely right. I saw it in myself. I saw that in myself.
And I did too. I saw it was extraordinarily ugly. Like I was also one of the, I was also more on the victim side. But then I had to see that it was ugly and abusive too.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, you're speaking to such like deep truths here. And I do have one more question for you about relationships. Then we can take some questions from the audience here. But could you, or how would you have a relationship when you are on the path of awakening and your partner isn't? Do you think that that's doable? What are some of the challenges there? Yeah, your thoughts on that?
That's hard.
Yeah.
It's of course it's absolutely doable. Of course, I mean, kind of if you're deeply awake, if you're equanimous, enlightened, whatever, then it's easy for you to have relationships with everyone. The problem is that it's not going to be easy for them. So the thing is, the thing about the ego is that, as I said, ego exists in relationships, and ego is, you can say, it's a conglomeration of expectations that you have about yourself and you have about others. So the ego thinks that it knows what's right and what's wrong, how everyone should behave. Usually it holds itself as a gold standard.
Yeah. Everyone should be like us. Right?
I mean, it's so funny, but it's true. Like almost every person on this planet, they think that they're the gold standard of behavior. And it relates to others in a manipulative and transactional way. Yeah. So that means that that a truly independent person who cannot be emotionally manipulated is a huge challenge for the ego. It makes it extraordinarily uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, like you say something like you kind of attack another person in some way, and you're used to people to it having effect on people and you getting away. And if the other person who's like spiritually deeply realized doesn't react to it at all, you feel kind of stupid.
Yeah.
And the same thing applies to a lot of other like manipulation. Or like, for example, if you used to whining and getting your way, or crying and getting your way, like women sometimes cry to get their way, and men oftentimes get angry to get their way. And if it has no other effect, no effect on the person at all, right? And even if they do what you want, it's absolutely clear from their behavior. They don't verbalize it at all, but it's absolutely clear from their behavior that your antics did not affect them at all. And if they're doing this on their own volition and you have no control over them, this can be very, very difficult. So basically, the deeper you go in the spiritual path, the less control, the manipulative control other people have on your behavior. And so another person would it would automatically bring up difficult reactions to their perceived loss of control over you, right? And the more the distance is, the more difficult it is. So I have an article on my website. It's actually, if we're talking about more or less complete enlightenment, the state of Buddhahood, it's extraordinarily difficult to live with the enlightened person without starting to fall, basically, without starting to go into the same direction, because the ego has nowhere to stand on. It has nowhere to hide. Like even if they are kind to you, even if they do what you want, even if they try to kind of cater to you, right? Emotionally, you'll still be unsatisfied because emotionally you feel secure. Like in a dream state, the stronger your ego is, the more it will be a requirement for you, so that you only will feel secure in the relationship when you more or less own the person, when you can predict them, when you can control them, when you can manipulate them, consciously or unconsciously. That's when you feel safe, right? So even if the person on the level of behavior is extremely safe, on the level of your kind of emotional reactions to it, if you have a strong ego and you live with an enlightened person, you will not feel safe.
That makes sense.
So the greater this distance, the harder it will be. So, but if you can recognize that there is deep love, there is deep unconditional love, then it's good. And you can kind of also begin your healing journey, because the deep unconditional love also uncovers the wounds. It uncovers the feeling of unsafety, which is irrational, actually.
Yeah.
It is irrational, but it's not uncommon for people to even end the relationship just because they don't feel safe. So there's this phenomenon in spirituality that the deeper the distance between equanimity, conditioning, the size of the ego, we can describe it in many ways. The harder it is for the other person, and the stronger they are pulled towards their own self-exploration and uncovering their wounds, and they could be prone to emotional outbursts, for example. I mean, I've lived my whole transformation I've lived with my wife, and we both had emotional outbursts. But I mean, I'm also older than her, so not only I'm much further along on this spiritual path than she is, but I'm also older than her, much older. So it was very difficult for her. Yeah. And unfortunately for us, it was difficult for me too, because I love her. But and as we discussed, like there were quite a bunch of things in myself that she helped me see and uncover some wounds. But for her, it was much more difficult. And yeah, I mean, luckily for us, there's a lot of authentic, deep love between us, which helped us stay. and as we stayed with years, and as I continued my practice and she continued my practice, most of our conflicts got resolved. Like we live a very happy, we have a very happy, loving relationships and stuff. But we had moments where like she was like, "Oh, that's it, I'm going away."
Yeah.
It's hard. It can be very, very emotionally hard.
Well, yeah, thank you for just sharing that with us and giving us like a glimpse into what it's like for you. I mean, it sounds like a beautiful experience, a beautiful relationship, but yeah, it's sounding like it takes some time. And
Yes.
if you are
Yeah.
with someone who isn't necessarily going through awakening, they're likely to get pulled into it, or maybe just go
Yes.
their own way.
Most like yes. I mean, I think it's possible. I think it's quite possible that there are probably couples like one person is enlightened, another is not, and they sort of found their way. But usually yes, there's a pull deeper into the same direction. So just be patient with each other. That's kind of general advice that I would give to people. Be patient with each other, and if there's deep, authentic love between you, uh, treasure it. It can weather all of it. Just treasure it. Talk to each other. It can blossom into something very, very beautiful for both of you.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. I just want to keep saying thank you to you for these answers. This is such amazing wisdom, and I want to give everyone some perspective here. We are speaking with a Buddha here today. Like this is quite rare to have somebody who has gone this deep on the path. This is not very common, so this is really special to have you here, Artem. And thank you. So if you're liking this, yeah, please follow Artem on his Instagram. All of his links are in his bio. Yeah, just there's plenty more where this came from. His forum is amazing. That was where I originally started talking to you, and you were helping me there. It was just life-changing to be a part of that. And that's where, if anyone's curious, like people are always asking me, where'd you meet your partner? Artem's forum.
Oh right,
This was,
that's right. I forgot about it.
that's
Yeah,
where I met my partner, who I'm with now. So it was through you. So I'm gonna take a minute to see if there's any questions here. We would love to take questions from any of you who are watching here. Let me just see. I've seen a lot of like, awesome, thank you so much. Let's see here. But yeah, please put your questions in here. Someone says, thank you both. I love it. Let's see. And Artem, while I'm doing this, do you want to just talk a little bit more about what you've got coming up? I think you mentioned you have a retreat coming up.
Yes.
In
Yes.
the Bay Area? Yeah.
Yes. So the I think that my Instagram links to the site. So the website is www.true-freedom.org or .net. They both work. There's the community section on the website links to the Discord forum, so everyone is welcome to join my Discord forum. There's also a Facebook page, which is also linked from the website. There's a YouTube channel, which unfortunately isn't linked from the website at all for some reason, because I'm too late to update it.
I'll share it at some point, yeah.
Yes, but if you just go to YouTube and search for True Freedom or True Freedom Artem, you will find it. So yeah, I'm doing, I do every Sunday at 11 a.m. PST, I do video meetings with my Sangha. So they are broadcast on both YouTube and Facebook. And this November, I am doing a retreat. It's from 17th to 20th of November. It's going to be a 3-day intensive, lots of meditation, Dharma talks, all various intimacy building exercises, like looking into each other's eyes or radical inquiry, talking very honestly, like kind of like radical honesty type of stuff. So I already did one retreat in July. It was beautiful retreat. It was very productive for everyone. Everyone cried. Everyone laughed.
I heard it was great.
Yeah, it was great. There's on my Facebook page, there's a post about it. So there's some pictures from it, lots of pictures from it, and the participants also posted reviews about it as comments to the post. So if you go to my Facebook page and a little bit, maybe it was like a month or two ago, so scroll down a little bit, you will see the reviews from the previous retreat, if you want to see what it's like. So for this retreat, we actually still have 3 or 4 spots left. And if you, it's going to be smaller than the previous one. The previous one was for 17 people. This one is going to be for 10. It's in California, so we have rented an Airbnb house in Arnold, California. Beautiful nature, and we still have 3 to 4 spots left. So if you are interested for 3 days, it's the price is $600, and it includes lodging.
That's a steal.
Food,
That's a
everything.
steal.
Yes, so it includes everything.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
So we still have. If you want to come, please send me a message on Instagram or anywhere, and you can come. Or you can also join my Discord Sangha, attend my video meetings on YouTube. So lots of the Discord Sangha is also. I'm not the only teacher in my Discord Sangha. There are some other pretty deeply realized people there. There are some methods, some tools to get help if this spiritual process is too tough. If the going is too tough, there are a bunch of channels to discuss different things, including relationships and sex. So it's a pretty vibrant and lively spiritual community.
It's a great community. No, and I always recommend people who are going through the spiritual path, and it's just really hard. I always recommend them to join your forum, because there is so much support there from people
Yes.
who really, really get it. Because a lot of times people dip their toes into spirituality, and if you come to them deeply in awakening, they'll look at you like, what? Like you're doing something wrong. No, that's not the case in your forum. No, everybody understands, and it's very supportive and loving, and yeah, highly, highly recommend it. Literally no questions. I am shocked. Maybe we've just discussed everything possible. But yeah, we'll stay on for just a couple more minutes here. If anyone has any questions for Artem, who is an amazing spiritual teacher here, for myself, for both of us. But no, this was really helpful for me, and I hope it was helpful for all of you watching here who are on the awakening path, which really, I think it's just another way to say on the path of healing. If you're really into healing, it's the same thing. Yeah, because you can't, if you heal to a certain level, you're going to start going into awakening anyway, whether you're aware of it or not.
And if you go into awakening, then you're going to start healing afterwards anyway. Yeah, it's the same. Like the path to enlightenment is the path of healing. Yes. And I could even, like, sometimes I even describe it. That's why I say oftentimes that giving attention to your emotional experience is the most important thing. And if you continue to learn to be more comfortable with how you feel at every given moment of time, by giving it your direct attention, by giving it direct awareness. You do it in meditation, you do it in life. If you continue to do it, then all the like spiritual shifts and identity shifts and consciousness shifts and non-duality and blissful experiences and stuff like that, they will happen. They cannot not happen. So it's a path of healing, and it is before deep spiritual openings like enlightenment, self-realization, non-duality. People call it by many names. It continues afterwards. So it's a path of healing and of our unresolved trauma that we carry with us. It's healing our inner child.
Exactly.
We can talk about the ego as the inner child.
I do. I use it interchangeably. Yeah, really, it's the same thing.
Me too. Yeah.
And so we had a comment here. Someone said this was great. Thanks. We do have a question for. I'm going to put it to you, Artem. What advice would you give for the highly sensitive on picking up more in relationships? And if this person could just clarify the question here. I am assuming, so do you know what we're talking about by a highly sensitive person? I don't think they mean an empath.
I would say, I think that they probably mean emotionally sensitive, meaning that they feel things deeply that things hurt, probably.
Maybe, yeah, because sometimes the way I use that term is like beyond emotions. It's also, you just like, you have a hard time with loud sounds, or like just you're sensitive to your outer environment as well. But also, I think, yes, sensitive to emotions. You feel things.
Well, they might mean intuitive, which would be different.
Yeah.
Like, so
I'll put the question up so you can you see it, Artem? Can you see it on the screen?
No.
Okay.
Can you read it verbatim?
Yeah. It says, yep, thank you. This is fabulous. What advice would you give for the highly sensitive on picking up more in relationships? Okay, and this person clarified, yes, in the frequencies of the other person's energy.
Oh, I see.
Tough one. Yeah, I'm curious.
Okay.
What you'd say to that.
Here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing about energy. I mean, ultimately, in the ultimate reality, all energy is your energy. So if you feel something, it's yours. Right? It doesn't mean that the other person isn't feeling something. Right? Like, for example, you might see a person's irritated, and you might have your own energetic response to it. So you don't just see him irritated. Okay, so I see him irritated, but it doesn't bother me at all. I see that they're irritated. It's obvious, right? But energetically, I'm just as equanimous as before. But if that's not the case, if you actually feel somehow in your body, whether you perceive it to be his irritation, it's like I directly feel his negative energy, or you perceive some sort of response to his irritation, right? So like maybe you sense his negative energy and you feel bad about yourself or scared or something, but you energetically, there is some energy that is response to his energy. Whatever it is that you feel, there is no going around giving it attention. There's no going around feeling it, right? Interestingly, you may be right or you may be wrong, because oftentimes, because all energy is your energy ultimately, you might be feeling something that is about you more than it is about him. So he might be really irritated and you're just feeling your response, or maybe he might be much less irritated than you think, but you're feeling your response very kind of intensely. Yeah. So it's important. It's very important in relationships not to make another person responsible for how you feel, right? And not kind of play the mind reader. It was like, well, I know you're irritated. I feel your energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is actually quite abusive. And people who consider themselves empaths do it all the time.
I used to. before I realized that actually it was all myself, and it wasn't just because you told me. I mean, you did tell me that, but
you realize this just in your own experience,
just
right?
See it because
you just see it. You feel it, yeah.
I don't feel other people's stuff. Rarely. Usually, it's just like
yours.
Yeah, like and I used to feel so much, and I thought, oh, this is everybody else's. No, it's mine.
No, it's yours. Yes. And so like so I think that the best thing is to sort of separate, right? So whatever it is you feel, even if you perceive it to coming directly from him, it is still like he's not going to be able to help you feel it, right? So whatever it is you feel is still yours to feel, is still yours to process. Now he might be feeling what you think you're feeling, or he might not. So it's best, I think, to separate communication and actual feeling, the actual sensation. So the actual sensation, every actual sensation requires your attention. And believe it or not, the more you give attention to the actual sensation, whether it's perceived to be coming from someone else or whether it's perceived to be coming from you, it absolutely doesn't matter. But the sensate experience is still in your experience. So the more you give it attention and the more you learn to be accepting of it, the clearer you will actually perceive other people. And then to separate that part of the spiritual journey from communication, from respectful communication, so you can ask them how they feel. Don't make assumption. Of course, sometimes people will lie. I mean, people are in denial and things like that. So if it's clearly obvious that they're irritated, they could say no. It's like, famous joke: you ask a woman what's wrong, nothing. It's always nothing.
Yes.
So it's everything, and things like that. So men do the same thing. So of course people, and especially if they are not in touch with themselves, they might not even know or don't want to admit that there's a thing that is going on. But it's important not to sort of take ownership of them in such a way that it's like, oh, I'm an empath, I feel your energy.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter if you're right. You could be right? Because other than feeling the energy, you also have eyes, and it's obvious usually when the person is irritated. You could be right. You could very much be right, but if he doesn't admit it or she doesn't admit it, it is still disrespectful, and it will make them even more angry. So the every sensate experience on the spiritual path, regardless if it's perceived to be coming from somewhere else, uh, and it will be perceived, and it will feel absolutely real. At some point of time, it will feel absolutely real that you actually feeling other people's energy. I went through this period. Lindsay went through this period. It it it, it is a real period, but still, every sensate experience needs your attention and needs your acceptance, because I'm pretty sure that it's also somewhat uncomfortable. If it was all blissful and nice, you wouldn't even be asking this question.
No.
So
No.
so this part is yours. This part is your practice, and what the other person is feeling and what the other person wants. That's the art of communication. So ask them questions. Don't assume. Listen. Let them talk about themselves. And even if you suspect that they might not exactly be telling the truth, don't try to be kind of forceful with, oh, I have this gift, I feel your energy, so you're lying. It's sometimes it's true, and very often it's not.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that makes sense. And I hope that this answer was helpful for the person asked. And if we had time, we could go into why that person was asking. But yeah.
But by the way, I want to tell Sad that
Yeah.
being highly sensitive is to other people's energies is actually good. It means that the consciousness is doing its job. It means that your heart is opening up. It means that you're starting experiencing many things that you haven't experienced before. And as we talked in the beginning of this conversation, that the whole spirituality is about other people, because not only your ego exists in the mind, but all the ego of other people also exists in the mind, and you kind of see how they relate, and how much energy and emotion is involved into that. So kind of feeling energy of other people, or even of places, or of everything, is actually good. It means that your spiritual progression continues, and your heart is opening up, your mind is opening up, and you are opening up yourself to various experience which you haven't had access to before. So whenever it comes, keep feeling. Close your eyes if it helps you. Don't if you don't want to, but give it attention. Keep feeling it. Welcome it. Welcome any energy, basically.
Yeah.
So even if it's perceived as bad energy, if it's coming, if it's knocking on your door, welcome it. Let it come and let it leave you when it wants to. Kind of let it run through you.
Right. Because the real you underneath all that stuff is
Not
absolutely
affected by yes, exactly. Yeah, the real
fine.
you it's completely and totally fine. So don't resist it. Let it run through you. Yes.
much easier said than done. But yes, absolutely.
But that's the practice. But that's exactly the core of the practice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, this was so good. Thank you. Thank you, Artem.
It was my pleasure.
No other questions here,
Right.
but you know, if anyone's watching, let me know if you like this. Maybe we can have Artem come on again. We can talk about something else. But yeah,
It'll be my pleasure.
Please follow his work. It's truly some of the best spiritual writings. You know, your talks are the best that I've seen out there. Again, not many people are speaking with this much clarity and this much depth is just the best way to put it. You have been through the awakening process, so you completely understand it inside and out and can help most people from wherever they are.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you. It was wonderful to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed talking to you, and it was really nice seeing you. Thank you for all the questions.
Oh, no problem. Again, just thank you for being here. And yeah, maybe we'll see you soon.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Follow Artem, and yeah, we will talk soon. Bye.
Bye.